All eyes are now on Saturday's governorship elections in Bayelsa, Imo and Kogi States. President Bola Tinubu has appealed to candidates participating in the November 11 governorship election, as well as electorate to ensure free and fair polls. It's going to be, when I think about Imo States.
What are you talking about? What's your problem? What is your problem?
Imo is one of the
Don't let CKN get angry. Don't let CKN get angry. It might be a gunman or not, but one of your known gunmen.
Event preceding the election will show that, look, it's going to be a keenly contested election. Even the factors there just between the Labour Party and the APC and, as a matter of fact, the People's Democratic Party too. Now, I saw what was done to the Nigeria Labour Congress chairman. I saw he was bandaged and harassed, beaten to a pulp. I said, wow, this will just show you, what is to come in Imo States.
Well, like the president said, for me also,
a whole president of the Nigerian Labour Congress.
The key thing
beaten
is for security to be put in place for this election. And good enough, it's an off-cycle, off-season election, where you have only 3 states.
Yes.
With all the security.
So they should be able to concentrate.
We should be able to concentrate.
Attention on these 3 states.
In terms of what happened to the Labour Congress president, I think I don't like it. I also don't support it, because for me, violence can never be the answer. But at some point, we've also got to sit down and ask, what really went wrong? Why did it happen? The local chapter says, we are comfortable with our governor. We don't want you to put us in another precarious position where we were before this man came, who started paying the minimum wage. Others before him did not pay it. He came in, started paying the minimum wage. If I'm wrong, CKN, because you are from that state, I know you've been following events keenly. And then did some reforms in the civil service and gave them what they felt was a good beginning. And then from the center, ostensibly because you are from that state, as the NLC president, you decided to dismantle the structure at the state level. That's looking for trouble, no matter how you look at it. It's the kind of violence that they visit on us when those of us in the private sector refuse to join their strike. I'm sure you're glad, maybe your windscreen would have been broken once or twice when NLC goes on strike, and they say they are enforcing it, that we in the private sector, who even subsidize their payment, we shouldn't go out. That's what happened to him. I don't support violence, and it shouldn't be the answer or solution to anything. But at some point, as Nigerians, we've got to sit down and look at what the issues are. Is the Labour Congress now a political party? If anything was going to be done to support the Labour Party in Imo State, because I like the courage of that candidate, Atam, the general. I like his courage. The Labour Party, as a party, should have been allowed to champion that cause. And not for the NLC to want to suppress its local chapter because of an interest. It's fine. Everybody is a political animal, but you don't do so in your capacity as the NLC president. You do so in your capacity as Joe Ajaero. There is a difference between the two, which must be demarcated very clearly.
Do you agree with Dotun? Because when the Labour president was beating blue-black, we've had a situation whereby Abiyu Bawaba went to Kaduna State. Yes, he was threatened of arrest and everything, but nobody arrested him. And at the end of the day, we've never seen a state, you know, that the Labour people, the Labour Congress and their exco should go there. And this is a bad precedent.
Well, it's quite unfortunate. Fortunately enough, I just came back from Imo State. I was in Imo State between Sunday and Thursday. I was there for 4 days this week. And I was invited to attend the retreat and conference of senior police officers in Nigeria, from the ranks of Commissioner of Police to the IGP. And we were there for the conference. And this thing happened during the period where we were on ground. Now, let me start from this. The right to protest has been guaranteed by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. 1999 Constitution, Section 40 of that Constitution talked about this right. And nobody can stop anybody from protesting. That case has been settled in the court, in the Supreme Court.
Up to Supreme Court.
Supreme Court, it has been settled. You don't need anybody's permission to protest in Nigeria as of today. You don't. If I want to protest, I carry placard from me, I go outside TVC and carry my placard. Nobody can stop me. The police cannot refuse that. What the law says is that the police should be able to provide security to make sure that it does not get violent. Now, that is for that. So the issue of whether NLC as president can, that is not, they have the right to do what they did. But what you ask, the timing, was the timing right? Those are the issues. I'm from Imo State, as I said. And I had so many stories while on ground. I'll just run quickly on that. The fact is that most Imolites believe that Ajero is trying to play politics. Ajero from Imo State. And most of them believe that most of what is happening is because of 2027 election, not just this one, where they think that Ajero wants to come out to run for a governor. But as Dr. Riley said, and let me ask now, we're having an election just a few days. Why now? The question you need to ask yourself, is it only Imo State? Let us assume that the governor is not paying. Is it only Imo State that has not been paying salary? So why is that not taken to other states? I do not totally support the brutality that was meted out to the president of Nigeria. And I believe that the IGP should be able to investigate this and make sure that all those that were involved. But the fact is that we don't need to play politics when it comes to issues like this. The NLC have become an interested party in the issue, on the issue of politics in Imo State. Don't forget that NLC is also a party because there is a Labour Party, which is the party of the NLC. And most people are believing that this. So those are the issues of behind the Labour. But on the issue of volatility of security, the IGP makes a statement that anybody who wants to cause trouble in Imo State, Bayelsa, and Kogi should think twice. I was there. I watched him. I had my mic to his mouth when he was saying it. That they should be very, very careful. But even at that, some of the posters of the government, is it the poster, the flex and the rest of the government that was that was mounted right from the airport to the city centers have been destroyed.
Destroyed.
Totally. I saw this.
The sitting governor.
In Imo State.
Yeah.
Yes.
Destroyed.
In fact, it was so bad that we were laughing, those of us, the journalists were covering it. As we were going, we were lodged around Concord Hotel. When we were going to the conference center, we saw they create hole on some of those this things. We saw some people coming back to patch it up. By the time we came back tomorrow morning, but they have.
So that tells you what is happening.
So there are two things in this election, because we're not just Imo State. We are talking of Bayelsa, we are talking of Kogi. The fact is that, one, INEC must get it right, and also security must be tight.
Yeah.
All right. Joining us for more discussion on the issues is the Executive Director of the Center for Public Accountability, Olufemi Lawson. Femi, thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
We are preparing for election as if we are going to war. What do you make of this situation in Imo State particularly, and even in Kogi State?
Well, for people who have followed the preparations for the off-cycle elections in Kogi, Bayelsa, and Imo State, we realize that President Tinubu's statement a few days ago calls for serious concern. I have listened to your conversation, and I will want to say this as somebody who has observed elections in Kogi, in Imo, and most particularly in Bayelsa State for at least 3 times. Our concern, even as we speak, is more about Kogi and Bayelsa State. If anything has happened in Imo State, which is very unfortunate, it cannot yet be equated with the current political atmosphere in Kogi and Bayelsa State. I am not analyzing from the point of view in Lagos. I've spent at least the last 5 months between Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo preparatory to our observers training engagement for the election, because our organization will be observing the election in these states. But I can tell you that there are more fear in Bayelsa and Kogi State ahead of this election. What has happened in Imo is merely, what ordinarily should be avoidable. And I want to disagree a bit with Mr. Chris and Dr. that, for God's sake, there's no justification for violence, irrespective of who is involved. In actual fact, if Joe Ajero, as the president of the Labour Congress today, choose to throw his heart into the race, there's no justification for violence whatsoever. What happened in Imo, unfortunately, the struggle for the welfare of workers linked to the election is very unfortunate. But I think the fact that violence was unleashed on Mr. Joe Ajero, as, of course, given, as ridiculed any form of justification that, political actors, particularly the state government, may have for his coming in or not. Joe Ajero is from that state. He has the right to be in the state. Yeah, whether anybody likes it or not, there's no justification for owing any worker. And the fact that the governor came and is paying minimum wage and that, they are not what we should be celebrating as Nigerians. The governor is not doing anybody any favor by paying salaries of workers in Imo State. Back to Kogi and Bayelsa. For anyone who has followed the race for the governorship in Kogi, you come to agree that it has been more of a race that will likely be between the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, and the Social Democratic Party, whose candidate is also a former national officer of the APC, and of course the PDP having Senator Dino Melaye. But the truth is that week in and out, over the last couple of months, there have been reported cases of violence, unlike Imo. There have been reported cases of violence against party supporters, against party structures, properties. In actual fact, as we speak, there are women who are all over the place protesting over the killing of a woman who was later discovered to be a member of the APC in Kogi State by a supporter of the major opposition candidate. In Bayelsa, just 3 days ago, a supporter of the PDP was also killed by people suspected to be members of the other party too. Only a few days ago, there was a video trending on the social media, and some TV stations were gracious enough to also show it. The deputy governorship candidate of a party was encouraging supporters to pursue and chase opponent voters who are coming to vote for their opponent into the sea during elections. There are serious concerns, and that is why I want to take seriously the appeal by President Tinubu that this election must not only be seen to be free, it must be fair. But moving forward, I believe the president has a role to play beyond making that kind of beautiful statement. Why am I calling out President Tinubu? Unlike every other president we have had between 1999 and now, President Tinubu has a record of having participated in the struggle for democracy. President Tinubu knows and understands what it means to undergo a democratic process, unlike some of those who have been president in Nigeria between 1999 and now, of course, before he took over. And that is why the president must go beyond this kind of statement towards ensuring that we now have a duty to safeguard our democracy. Elections are practically becoming war. For candidates to encourage supporters to push opponents into the sea, for people to attack women because of their support for particular candidates, for people to tear billboard of candidates who is even a serving governor, in the city for candidates, for supporters of political parties to threaten violence because of the kind of encouragement they get from these candidates cause for serious concern. And that is why we must call out President Tinubu to look at where he is coming from as somebody who is a product of the pro-democracy struggle, and look at how we can once and for all criminalize this culture of desperation and, of course, war in our elections.
Now, Femi, when you look at the, on the part of the Independent National Electoral Commission, their performance in the February presidential and National Assembly election, general election, so to say. So when you look at the way people, were kind of complained about, particular issues. Now, what do you expect from INEC in this off-season election just for 3 states?
INEC has a very huge moral responsibility to deliver free, fair, and credible election on November 11 in Kogi, Bayelsa, and Imo State. But for somebody who has been actively involved in election activities in Nigeria, I want to state this clearly. If you even make Professor Mahmoud the state rec simultaneously in the 36 states or these 3 states where election be conducted, or at the same time, the truth is that INEC alone cannot offer Nigerians any credible election without the cooperation of other stakeholders involved in the electoral process. In the electoral chain, you don't just have INEC, you have the security agencies, you have the political parties, you have the observers, the civil society, the media, that you, of course, you've been in a lot of states covering election in this country, and you know the role you have played, even in exposing some of the things that would have altered the outcome of our elections in Nigeria. So moving forward, INEC has a responsibility to redeem its image, especially when you look at the verdict of not only Nigerian people, local observers, and foreign observers over the last general election. The truth is that INEC did not perform creditably well as expected. During the last year, there were a lot of controversies that are attributed to the performance of INEC. While INEC is expected to redeem its image by ensuring that this election is not only credible, but ensure to be free and fair, and in terms of logistics, INEC is able to live up to expectation. Most importantly, we must call out every other stakeholders in the electoral chain, particularly the security agencies, to avoid compromising the integrity of the election by allowing desperate politicians and their thugs to overrun the electoral process. As we speak, only 2 days ago, a group of women in Bayelsa State came out to indict a unit of the police force for taking side with some group who are unleashing terror on some communities in Bayelsa State. In Kogi, there have been reports of a particular governorship candidate, to be precise, the SDP candidate, refusing invitation from the Commissioner of Police and Security Agencies. And nobody should be above the law. We must look at how we can ensure that every stakeholder in the electoral chain, the INEC doing its part, the security agencies doing their part, the media doing your part to expose these issues as they unravel, and of course, the civil society who are also observing this election playing their own part. That is the only way we can have a credible election. Not only when we have a sainthood of a commission called INEC, or a perfect chairman or rec or returning officer. No, it has to do with the cooperation of every other person involved in the process, and that is the only way to have credible elections come November 11.
I want to thank you, Comrade Olufemi Lawson. Thank you for your contribution. Gentlemen, now we know this election is going to be monitored, obstacle election, just in 10 states. So the Inspector General of Police is meant to deploy all his men and everything.
And even the military.
And the conduct of the politicians, if they don't want to make the system work,
they won't.
No amount of organization you do.
I'm glad Femi mentioned it about the situation in Kogi State, where the SDP candidate, Social Democratic Party, Muritala Jaka, has been invited for a parley by both the police and Department of State Services, but he did not honor it.
Why?
Among all the candidates. All others went, he did not. And then I think Femi didn't hear me well when we spoke about what happened in Imo. Yeah. What we did was reporting, pure, that this was what happened between the local chapter of the NLC and the national. That's all we did report.
And even at that
And
time
nobody supported the beating.
Yes,
And we said it very clearly.
And
There is no
felt
room
he
for
wasn't-
violence.
And he wasn't. I felt he wasn't listening.
Yeah, he was.
Because
He
I
wasn't.
quoted the sections of the Constitution where it was said
He
that
wasn't.
everybody has the right to protest, and that has been settled by Supreme Court.
He wasn't.
And also called on the Inspector General of Police to make sure that he fished out
Everybody
everybody that was
involved.
involved in the brutalization of
You know?
brutalizing the NLC president. So there's no way we can justify what happened, and that is totally condemned. So Lawson probably wasn't listening. But the fact, as I said, it is now within INEC and security agencies to make sure that this election for Saturday is as free and fair, and making sure that every Nigerian, the people of Bayelsa, the people of Kogi State, as well as the people of Imo State, are able to come out to exercise their rights.
Because that's even the only way you can encourage people to
Yes.
come out. If you look at the 3 states in all, in totality, during the general election, those who came out for the senatorial and House of Assembly elections, they weren't up to half of those who actually got their permanent voter cards. You know, it's a different thing from registration. You add registration, and then you now add people who actually came out to collect. They weren't up to half. And that's dangerous for our election. It's dangerous for our democracy. We must be able to guarantee the safety of people. That's the only way you can bring them out to vote. If I know going to a polling station is going to endanger my life, then I won't leave my house because it's not worth it.
I want to thank you, Dr. Oladipo and Chris Kendi.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And that's our offering on Journalist Vanguard on Sunday. Join us tomorrow for a regular episode of Journalist Vanguard by 5 p.m. You can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode tonight at 11:30 p.m. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Ozuba.